supportive to, I know, all the counties, and Dan and Feast, obviously our cricket operation director, and again, Dan will come in later. We'll take you through in a moment through the slides, but just please be aware, I've mentioned it earlier, but just for the people who have just joined us, please keep your microphone on mute. It's good to see you have your video cameras on. A reminder that we will be recording the session. I did also put that comment in that it's really good to have your name on screen, please. And we'll come back to that, some of the social media issues about that. So any questions you've got in the chat box, log them in and we will go back to them. So we'll start off with the first slide. Thanks. Next slide, please, Dan. Okay, for all the club welfare officers, I'm aware it's not just club welfare officers, there'll be others, but certainly the club welfare officers, club chairmen, and those people who are making sure that the clubs are working well. What is really been very effective is the fact that all existing club welfare officers who are registered have been getting an invitation directly from the safeguarding team to join a online Zoom-based meeting, same as this sort of thing. I've had some really good feedback from people who have done it, and certainly comments about it's nice to, in this present lockdown, to get used to the new technology, but they've gone on very well. The other bit of accreditation, if it's expired for existing welfare officers, will be a case of updating the SYC. For that, they will get another.
Phil, you seem to have been muted.
All right, sorry, something I've been muted. I've unmuted myself, but I'll start that again. Thank you for that note. Okay, so club welfare officers safe hands training. In terms of the qualification, it expires for anybody who's expired between March and August. You will get the invitation from the ECB. It will be similar as this, an online Zoom classroom, and I've had some really good feedback from people who have attended. If your SYC has expired, you will also get an invitation from e-learning to go through that webinar-based, watch some videos, contribute some questions, and ask a multiple choice question. That will then lead you to get a certificate. This re-accreditation is going to be valid for 12 months in this present sort of situation. For newly appointed CWOs who clubs have just gone into, that's a case of your county welfare officer or your chairman needs to let me know about your new appointment. I will arrange an online classroom for you and also an e-learning SYC. Again, this will be valid for 1 year as the current welfare officers. There will be a need to do a face-to-face safeguarding and protecting children course when it's suitable to do so. All the information, again, in safe hands, which I'll refer to time and time again, which will be make it very clear about the whole process about training welfare officers. Claire, any contribution?
I just want to say that there's been a really great uptake on the webinars that we've been putting on. And yeah, the feedback's been really, really positive. Just like to say, you know, if you do, you know, if there are any club welfare officers requiring it that haven't already done so, there's going to be quite a few dates being released throughout July. And we'll look to review numbers at the end of July to see how many more outstanding there are, as to whether we need to continue to put on some more webinars through the month of August and moving forwards.
Brilliant, thank you, Claire. One of the things which we're going to come on to in a moment with the safe hands slide, there's a lot of good guidance. The guidance referring to club welfare officer is the ECB guidance on appointing and training a club welfare officer. Very clear there, the whole process. Hopefully we'll be back at some stage to start online training, but at the moment this is working particularly well. Thanks very much. Go to the next slide, safe hands. Okay, thanks. There is a hyperlink there. I know it's blue on blue, but it will work when you look at the slides. But it's also very clear that if you just Google ECB Safe Hands Cricket, it will come up very, very quickly. There has been a lot of updates recently, and it's continued being updated, which has been very pleasant. I know from all county welfare officers in terms of a really effective piece of work. It's probably the best piece of work from any governing body in terms of a clear processes about how clubs need to operate, obviously before and during this situation. The one that we're going to be particularly looking at is the kit bag, which will give all your policies and procedures about the policies you need to have in your club, the people you need to have in place. I know Claire may want to say something about it too, but we've actually, there's been a bit of frustration in the past about the referral form, which was been around for probably about 6 or 7 years. However, that's been substantially updated. There is a copy on the Essex website, and I know county welfare officers will be sending it around, but the new referral form is very much easier to produce, either hard copy or preferably it will word process this, and you can do it online like that. The guidance, regulations and haven't changed at all. So all of those good practices around fast bowling directives, fielding, who wears helmets, that hasn't changed, and we just need to make sure that club welfare officers and everybody keeps that in mind in terms of how we're adapting games in the future. Claire, anything about safe hands?
Yeah, I just want to say that having come into the organisation in January, I know that obviously there was a new proactive side of the ECB safeguarding team set up, and one of the things that we recognise that we need to look at is just having a review of safe hands. There's some really useful information in there. I'm conscious that a lot of the templates there maybe not downloadable and not in a very easy to use format. So a longer piece of work that we're going to be doing is to look at safe hands, just to ensure that we give the network the best possible means of accessing the information. And Phil, you touched upon the referral form. That was sort of a first sort of urgent point of call, because I don't think it was a downloadable document on Safe Hands before. You could access it, but actually not download it. So now people can download it, print it off, fill it out online. There's a number of ways in which they can use that document. So I think it's a positive step, really, in terms of making referrals.
It's a very effective document. The other thing I'm advising all clubs to do, that you'll see that when you download it, I will be sending it around. It is downloadable from the Essex website. If you go on to Essex Cricket Community website, then one of the tabs is designated as safeguarding referral form. You can download that onto that. That can be then sent around to all the people in your club. Please, when you download it, you'll see it's a referral form /Essex. Would you then put the name of your club after that, so that it's clear when we get referral forms in which clubs it's come to? As I say, it's very clear in what you need to processes you need to list. One of the things we have said in terms of that process, that a lot of the stuff that you will be able to cope with within the club, and I've given some examples on there: gentle teasing, a bit of name calling, the sort of things which we'll dealt with all the time. However, if it comes to the really serious situations about child abuse, physical abuse, neglect, or any form of sexual abuse, please make sure that you email copies of that form to both the safeguarding team and myself. Again, all the information is on that form. It should be there. Any feedback you got on the form, please share with us. But as I say, as Claire said, it's a much improved that, and it's one of the things we've asked for some time, to make sure that it is downloadable and actually word processable. And I'm sure this will lead to a lot more effective that. And again, one of the things that is made clear on the form is that once you've actually, particularly the more serious ones, then it will be up to between myself and Claire and her team to make sure all the other agencies that need to know are informed. Again, confidentiality is obviously the biggest thing, but just be rest assured we will keep it very confidential. Thank you, Claire. Good. Can we have the DBS slide? Okay, this has been working really well at the moment. Obviously, we've been very grateful to all the club welfare officers in the way that you've been able to process your forms. At the moment, on the present situation, it's only verifiable by county staff, appointed county staff. However, it's a very simple process. It's been very effective. It's there on the screen. Anybody who needs one from within the club just sends a basic email to that address, dbs@ecb.co.uk. Subject is the DBS application. Put in your basic information. That will then generate a note back. Then you will be asked to fill in information about various forms. Traditionally and typically it will be your passport numbers, it will be your driving license, possibly a birth certificate, another form. Once that's got back, please email your county, obviously in Essex in my case, I know some of the other counties are on board, but email back your county that that's happened. We will then be able to verify it remotely. The verification process is incredibly quick. Please make sure that when you do ring up, and you can use WhatsApp, you can use FaceTime, or we can set up a Zoom meeting, and it will just be a case of showing those 3 pieces of evidence against your screen. That will be verified by the information your county welfare officer's got, and it takes a minute or 2, no more than that. So please make sure that all the people that you need to get involved and get DBS, all your volunteers, as I say, it's a very quick process. If you're getting a renewal of your DBS, then you will get a letter to say that I think we've now almost got to that stage where most of the renewals people will be saying that if you want to carry on with your DBS, you don't have to do anything. However, if you want to opt out, then you let the process know. Anything else on DBS, Claire?
Yeah, I've just got a question from Graham about with cricket looking to move towards a return to play and how long before the system is returned to full access for CWOs. What I can say is that we are very conscious of the guidance that's coming out on, well, tomorrow, I think, and I think there's further guidance on Monday in relation to COVID restrictions. And I know that Elaine from our team is in liaison with Atlantic Data, because anything that we do in terms of DBS has to be with their authority. I think there will be a move towards there being a slackening of the verification in terms of us being able to allow more people to do the verification and it be done face to face. However, those 2 metre restrictions will need to remain in place. So there are going to be some communications going out once we're a little bit clearer about the government guidelines, and once that liaison with Atlantic Data has been consulted. So I would imagine you would get to hear within the next week or so. Okay,
that's good information, up-to-date information. We've got a note, a question about DBS. Somebody who has one as an umpire, just to clarify that if you have already got an ECB DBS as an umpire official, then that will also qualify you for your role as a welfare officer. Thanks for putting that in. And also that question really is in terms of, again, from Graham Smith, that we hopefully will get clarification on the timescales when club welfare officers. But obviously, the other thing, hopefully, we've already discussed that for a lot of people this has been a very straightforward process, particularly for people who are not necessarily club based, and hopefully that there will be remote verification in addition to the face-to-face once we return.
Phil, can I just
yes.
Can I just ask Cliff, who's put a message up around ECB handouts, just to clarify
Yeah.
what those handouts are? Are they from the safeguarding team or from a different team?
No, I think it's when you put, it's like the different things that come out from the ECB. It's a bit like our one at the moment. We've got a background with a blue background. If you print it, you end up using a lot of ink. And I think what a lot of people like is a very clear thing that can be almost as a poster printed without using lots of ink up and then be posted around and put on notice boards. So I think that's something we talked with Matt Blakely about in the last one. I think Matt's taking it on board. But if we do think a lot of clubs need to publish this information on notice boards, then it will avoid using a huge amounts of ink up, and it's a lot clearer if it's on a white background. Hopefully that was Cliff's point. You can come back to it if there's anything else. Julie's page has got one. Can we clarify, when you sign up to update the system, do you need a new certificate when the hours of 3 years are up? New certificates posted out when the 3 years up, as long as people have not decided to opt out. Is that correct, Claire?
Sorry, Phil, can you?
Yeah, sorry, the question was from Julie. It was about when her DBS has expired.
Yeah.
She had the letter that says, are you happy to carry on? And she hasn't withdrawn. A new, fresh, paper-based DBS will be sent out.
Yeah, that's right. If you haven't opted for the update service.
Yeah. So, as I say, any of these things in doubt, you can always come back with questions on DBS.
Get a couple's line back before you do that.
Sorry, somebody's got a question. You can keep it muted, please, everybody. That would be really appreciated because we're getting some odd things in the background. Okay, we'll come back to some of the issues around the chat box in a moment. If we have the next slide, please. Again, I've put this up as something that's come up. Particularly, we've had some really good examples from some of our clubs who have done some excellent session around Zoom-based coaching, and I suspect it's something that's going to be with us for a long while. One of the things that I have put together on the Essex cricket website under the community, a whole section on social media, particularly about Zoom. We asked a lot of Zoom questions to make sure that we have best practice, to ensure that the people using the Zoom and the camera were the parents. It wasn't, kids weren't using themselves. We needed to establish that each case people logged on using their full name, so we knew who that was. But as I say, there's a complete checklist about using Zoom, some issues around TikTok and other issues around that. Some particularly good information you can get from CPSU and NetAware, and particularly for those people who are keen to keep up to date, those two organisations, CHEOPS and NSPCC, both of them, they are email addresses. If you email and ask to go onto the database, then you will receive very regular updates. That is obviously something which we're going to have with us for a good few years, I suspect. And if we make sure we keep up with best practice, these people are really excellent. Claire, anything?
No, nothing from me.
Good. Right, if we go to return of cricket and Dan, anything you'd like to just add to that while I go through the chat box and see what we can bring up with?
Yes, no problem. Can you hear us, Phil?
Yeah, very clear. It's good.
So, obviously, it's very key and great to have so many of you on here again supporting club cricket, and a massive thank you out to you all in terms of everything you've done in terms of supporting this process. And again, it's great to have Claire here to show the support that we get from the ECB in terms of around managing the safeguarding of cricket at all levels. You've seen correspondence going out in terms of competitions and formats going through national programmes when Dynamos and All Stars Cricket. We're expecting a bit more of an update around All Stars Cricket in the next couple of weeks. The key bit really is just making sure you follow all the guidelines that keep coming out, and a massive thank you again to all the clubs that have been doing that and supporting. You would have seen on the ECB update that's just come out at 5 o'clock tonight, there is some really useful documents and guidance for clubhouses on how you can look to open clubhouses from this weekend. So those clubs that have been doing the step 3 small group coaching and guidance, there is the new ECB guidance has come out today, giving you opportunities around risk assessment and things you will need to put in place to reopen your clubhouses in a safe manner. But again, please make sure you, as the club welfare officers or your club committee, are looking at all aspects within that risk management and risk mitigation when you think about it. So again, there's no pressure for clubs to open. It's got to be right for your club, and you've got that opportunity to do it and going through. So again, we're still, as Claire mentioned there, we're still waiting for that clearance and clarity that we can move to step 4. There's still very much optimism around hopefully that being in the next couple of weeks when it comes through. But at this moment, we're still working at step 3. And again, from a safeguarding point of view, it's key that you are fully aware of what that process is and how the club has put everything in place for that to happen. But again, if you do have any questions, then please come to your counties and ask that, or again, through to Phil or your own county welfare officers. We'll be able to support you through that process at any point.
Good. Okay. Anything else on that? In terms of, as I say, the information that's come out this evening has addressed many of those issues, which up to last night, particularly about and a very good checklist for clubs to go through from the whole process, about starting, about how the club is set out and organised. But from this point of view, obviously, we want to make sure that all the club welfare officers are fully up to date and feel completely supported. I have to say that, you know, it's working very effectively. People are communicating regularly. We're here to be used. If you send any information, any questions in, we will be able to respond within the day. A couple of other questions that have come up from Julia, just to confirm that to Julia, you will get a paper certificate if you are in the update system, and that will come out and that will be sent to you as a thanks. Adrian, I know, yes, traditionally we have a blue background for Essex Cricket. I know some of the hyperlinks. However, if you do have copies of this, they will actually work. We've put up there all the different contact numbers, email addresses for your sake. The certificate numbers will be different when you get a DBS, so you'll have to, particularly for Club Mark, there was a question that came up earlier about Club Mark and making sure that the role of the... Sorry, it's a tug going by. The Club Mark is making sure that all people who need a DBS have got one. There certainly was nothing to stop people getting DBSs. Just looking to anything else. A question that's come up from 2 or 3 welfare officers, and one of the things that they have always used in the past, accessing the online system to make sure that all of their volunteers, their captains are checked. Hopefully, Claire, that's maybe something you could take back. It's the question that the welfare officers, they can't verify because of that, but they would like to make sure they still get full contact of all the information, so they can still log on to get the information from their club. Is that possible?
It's something that I can take back, because I'm assuming that they can't actually log on at all at the moment. I'll take that back, Phil, and I'll find out the answer and I'll send that through to you.
Thanks very much. As I say, there's 2 or 3 people have raised that. Obviously, it looks as if this could be going on for some time, and if it does, I think clubs are very keen to make sure. I've had a few clubs come back to me and request that information. But as I say, if that does come out, then I think that would be very, very helpful. I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions. We've got another 5 minutes for questions. Any other comments? Anybody else, Dan, or in terms of that for information? Somebody wanted to come and ask a question directly. If anybody put your hand up, use the hand signal reaction with a thumb. If you'd like to ask a question, then by all means put that up. And if you prefer to do it verbally, I think we can do that as a one-off. Just to clarify, there is no club mark assessments this year, but obviously I know a lot of welfare officers are very keen to make sure that they keep the whole process up to date. It doesn't lag.
Phil, I think Cliff Greenhill wants
Yeah.
to come in.
Yeah, go on. Cliff, by all means, come in. Cliff, if you'd like to just join us for a minute. Unmute. By
Am
all
I
means.
unmuted?
Yeah. go
I
on.
have received in the last few minutes a thing to get your clubhouse ready for cricket. I'm showing you on my iPad. It's 11 pages long. It's the same dark blue print, which is very difficult to copy and get information to put up either at the clubhouse or anywhere else. When I did it with the previous one about using nets, it used up a whole blue cartridge. It was something like 14 pages long. This is 11 pages long, and we complained about it before. Once they complained about it, we want something we can copy, put up on our pavilion door, and send to our people easily. And when you keep producing this in red and blue, it makes it extremely difficult for us to administrate it.
Thanks, Cliff. Point well made. As I say, we did talk to Matt Blakely about it, and I'm sure Claire can take that back to her team, and that is acknowledged. I think that's a fair point. A question that I did have beforehand, and that was a question about track and trace. And could the club potentially be sued if a club develops as a hotspot and some they haven't gone into lockdown? Are there any issues that has come up, Claire, in terms of if a club does become a hotspot for COVID-19, could there be any situation where the club could be sued or legislation?
Well, in answer to your question, it hasn't come up yet. And I think that if there are clubs within areas that go back into lockdown, I'm thinking particularly, obviously Leicestershire at the moment, but it may extend to other areas, then that, though, unfortunately, those cricket clubs are going to have to go back to adhere to government guidance. There's no way they're going to be able to continue running as, unfortunately, other parts of the country will. In terms of being sued, I don't know the answer to that. It's not something that we've had any discussions around in the team, but certainly I think we need to be mindful of the fact that if there are going to be further restrictions in certain geographical areas, we would hopefully we'll follow government advice and get in touch with those particular areas as and when and if that happens.
Brilliant, thanks, Claire. A question came up from Aztecs. Again, this one hasn't come up before, about what's happened to those DBS applications which the CWO verified before lockdown. If they verified it before lockdown, all the process went through, that they should have received their DBS by now. It's only for people who have not been verified or started the process after lockdown. So, Ali, if you want to come back to me with any particular query, we can track people down on that one, by all means. Thanks for that question. A question from Sandeep about the slides. Yes, we will be publishing the slides and the recording of this video if people need to go back to check any information. Okay, we've got last minute or so. Just as a final wind up, I'd like to thank Claire for not only joining us tonight, but also all the support her team is giving us all at the moment. It's really pleased, it's really happening very quickly. Thank you for everybody across Essex and all the other surrounding counties for your time listening in, all the work that you do to support Dan, myself and the rest of the team. Well, we're getting back to that. We have got the next webinar that we've got scheduled is about ability cricket webinar. That's on the 7th of July, 12 o'clock, that's 12 p.m. It'd be great if you could join that. Any other final points?
Phil, can I just say, I know there's a number of DBS queries that have come up tonight, and please can you all feel free to email dbs@theecb.co.uk if you've got any DBS queries around lockdown, and whether you're it's quite simple to check the system. So if you do have any specific DBS concerns, other than obviously not guidance, but specific, questions around your own club's DBS, then feel free to drop the DBS team a line.
Thanks, Claire, and certainly the responses have been very quickly. Just last thing really from me was about the fact that we've now updated the Essex Cricket community section safeguarding. If you go onto that, all the things we've been discussing this evening are on there. You can download the referral form. You can download all the information, the process for doing a DBS at the moment. It's a pretty straightforward site, but it's just a case of following it. Whatever information you want about DBS, about social media, the referral form, please go to that, have a go at that. If there's something that's not clear after that, by all means come back to it, but that could be your first stop. Dan, anything you wanted to finish with?
No, not from me, Phil. Thank you very much to Claire for joining you, and thanks, Phil, for your efforts putting this together.
We've had 75 people on tonight, which is really appreciated, all the time that people are giving up to that. As I say, as Claire said, the work that you all put in means that we can actually ensure that kids actually have a fun and safe activity. We'll see what the future brings in terms of getting some cricket going at that. But again, do keep in touch with us. We will make sure that we respond to any queries, and we will publish and we will note the comments that people have made in the chat box and try and act as best we can on them. So again, thank you very much for joining us. By all means, leave from the bottom right hand of the screen. If anybody's got anything desperate that you want to ask us a question over the microphone in the last 2 or 3 minutes, please do. But if not, have a good rest of the evening. And again, thank you for joining us.